Morning everyone. This is a little video for my mate Pete, who's not feeling very well at the moment. He's got a bit of man flu, so get well soon, Pete. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to remind you of some great trips that we've done with the Old Portlands Cycling Club. Great cycling club if anybody's looking for a little club to join in South London. Now, one of the trips we did was to the Tour of Flanders, Sportives. So I'm going to put on the Tour of Flanders cap, and here we are. This is La Ronde cap, and this is from Craft. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you may have seen me talking about these caps from Craft because I think they're rather nice. So La Ronde, as it's known, is the Tour of Flanders, and it is possibly the greatest of the one-day monument events. And it takes place through Flanders, believe it or not. And it climbs a number of iconic cobbled climbs, notably the Koppenberg, the Paterberg, the Oude Quermont, the Tyenberg, the Molenberg. The course tends to change a little bit every year, but it's a fabulous event. There's generally about 12 or 13,000 people who've done it, and me and Pete have done it a couple of times. Great event if you're thinking of doing one. Moving on to the next cap, and this is L'Enfer du Nord. And anyone who saw my previous unboxing video will recognise this cap. And L'Enfer du Nord is another name for Paris-Roubaix. Again, one of the greatest monuments, running from just north of Paris and ending up in Roubaix, an industrial town in the north of France. And again, it covers a series of cobbles, farm tracks really, although unlike the Tour of Flanders, which is very lumpy because many of the cobbled climbs are just that, quite tough climbs, Paris-Roubaix is an almost completely pan-flat race. But it goes across some terrible cobbles, much worse than you tend to find in the Tour of Flanders. Again, this was a fabulous sportive, which I did along with Pete and a number of others from the Old Portlands Cycling Club, and a great time was had. Some of the iconic cobbled routes there are the Forest of Arenberg, which is a couple of kilometres through the middle of a forest, believe it or not. And another one is the Carrefour de l'Arbre. And the day after we did the Sportive, a group of us from the Old Ports saw the pros race. This was the day that Bradley Wiggins was racing, and we were on a bend of the Carrefour de l'Arbre. And one of the great things about that is that you see the cyclists coming from some distance away. They come towards you fairly slowly, or they seem to be going fairly slowly, and then they sweep past, and then you see them go off in the distance. So unlike when you generally watch a cycling race and you stand around for about 4.5 hours and see 2 minutes of cycling, we actually saw about 20-25 minutes. The great thing about that was, not for some of the cyclists at the back of the peloton, but the great thing for us was, once the main group have passed and we're all walking back to our cars, there were a couple of lone cyclists still struggling their way across the Carrefour de l'Arbre, trying to get past the crowds who are now going in the opposite direction. Not a great thing if you're one of those cyclists, but for the crowds, it was great. Moving on to the next one, and this cap is, I want to put it on, La Doyenne. And again, you may recognise this cap from one of my previous videos. La Doyenne is also known, or is more commonly known as Liege, Bastogne, Liege, and is one of the Ardennes classics. And it takes place through the forest of the Ardennes, and it is a lot of climbing. No cobbles, but it's about 100 miles on the route that we did, and about 10,000 feet of climbing. And some of the iconic climbs on that are La Redoute, La Roche au Faucon, and the Côte de Saint-Nicolas, which goes through the centre of Liège as you're heading back towards the end. And again, it was a fabulous event which Pete and I did along with a number of other old ports. Now, the last event that we did this year, in fact only about 5 or 6 weeks ago, is the cause of Pete feeling a bit rough at the moment, and that was the Amstel Gold event. Now, I don't have an Amstel Gold cap, but I do have an Amstel Gold medal. Now, I'm going to hold that up to the camera and let it focus on it so you can see that. Just in case you couldn't see it too clearly, it says on it 14th of April 2018, which is the date that we did the Sportive. Russ, which is Jan Russ. Merckx, which is obviously Eddie Merckx. Gilbert, who is obviously Philip Gilbert. Zoetemelk, who is Joop Zoetemelk. Jerry Knetemann, Bernard Eno, Michael Boogerd and Thomas Dekker. Not sure why they've chosen those particular winners of the race to immortalise on the medal, but they've done so. And this, again, was a fabulous event, although Pete and a number of other old ports unfortunately came down with what we're calling the Amstel cold, because they've suffered a bit since we came back. Now, Dekker on this medal is this person, Thomas Dekker, who was a very well-known, at the time, Belgian cyclist who, like many at the time, succumbed to drugs. And this book that he's written, The Descent, is a very well written and fascinating account of his cycling life and his descent into drug taking. And he doesn't pull any punches, he doesn't make any bones, he doesn't try and come up with any excuses. He is unflinchingly honest about what he did and why he did it, and what it's done to his career. So, Pete, if you're looking for something to read while you're getting better, I can highly recommend this. So, get well soon, mate. See you out on the bike. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.